JJ Jinx!
Truck stop!
Welcome to another video! Today I'm going to show you something interesting that I spotted from Amazon. And it is this. This is the MicroTech, not MicroTech, pretty far from it. This is the MTech model MT-673. And I got it for one reason. It looks a hell of a lot like this knife, which is the CRKT Minimalist. I think this is the one that most people would be familiar with. It came out lots of years ago, and this is the Smoky Mountain Knife Works exclusive. It's got D2 steel, brown micarta scales, and otherwise it's identical to the original Minimalist, which I tried to go and find for this video. It's a different steel and it's got green handles. It's somewhere in a giant pile of knives in my basement that I have yet to organize, and I gave up after a few minutes because I had to pee. These go for 30 bucks. That's kind of the going price. They come in a few different blade styles. You have the original clip point. They also make a Tanto version and a Wharncliffe version. This is going to be a compare and contrast video with MTech's answer to the Minimalist. So let's just put the knives side by side, talk about similarities and differences. First of all, price. 10 bucks will get you one of these. It's got a black stone washed finish. It came with a Tanto version blade. I don't know if they make other versions. I didn't see any. But obviously, the design is heavily inspired by the Minimalist. They look very similar. But there are differences. For example, you can see right away, the finger grooves don't quite go as deep on the MTech version, and the scales on the Minimalist are a lot thicker. And material-wise, I think this is just plastic screwed on in a couple different places. The screw heads are a lot bigger, and they're a little bit closer together compared to the Minimalist. Lengthwise, they are almost identical. I think the Minimalist is just a little bit longer in the handle, but not by much, maybe an eighth or a quarter of an inch. Accessories. The CRKT Minimalist comes with its fitted sheath. It also comes with some of this stuff. Here is a belt clip that you can attach in either this position or this position. So you can imagine it kind of hanging off sideways, so you can like pull it out and, I don't know, kind of do it that way. I always liked just popping it off. It really springs. It's gone. You also get a string with one of these squeezy sizer things so you can wear it around your neck. The MTech version also is springy. Sorta. The accessory that the MTech version came with was one of these bead things that you can loop through there to wear around your neck, and that's it. So that's one of the ways they can get the price down to 10 bucks. This is probably about 2 cents to manufacture. Now the sheath has a couple of differences between the two. On the Minimalist, you can see it is shaped to hold the Tanto version, and I'm kind of curious if in the earlier versions that's the case, because the Tanto came out later. The MTech version does not have that sort of universal Tanto cutout, I guess you could call it, so I doubt it comes with any other style. Construction-wise, there's also a couple of differences. CRKT took 2 pieces of plastic and riveted them together, whereas MTech took 1 piece and folded it. The rivets are different as well. The CRKT Minimalist has larger rivets and more of them, 6 compared to 4. But probably what would be the deal breaker for the $10 MTech version is what happens when you put it into the sheath. You have this little depression right here, which the back of the blade right here has to pass through, and that sort of locks it in. You can see that same sort of thing on the Minimalist, but it's a little harder to see. It's more of a depression than a discrete ridge. And then this part sort of locks in with a satisfying click. You get that with the MTech version as well. But notice this cavity is rather large compared to the corresponding part on the knife. And that leads to rattling. Yeah, up and down, back and forth, it rattles. You get no such rattle on the Minimalist. It's fitted much better. So for an extra 20 bucks, you get all that. Oh yeah, and I forgot, it comes with this rat tail kind of lanyard thing, which I hate. I just can't bring myself to cut it off, because then it's like an incomplete Minimalist. A couple of other details that are different. There is a little bit of jimping on the Minimalist, and it is absent on the MTech. Weight-wise, they're actually pretty similar. I think the micarta just might be lighter than this dense plastic on the MTech version. The blade stock looks slightly thicker, but not a whole lot. When I first laid eyes on the Minimalist, I thought, well, it could be one of two things. Number one, it could be a fad. CRKT has a lot of cool, weird, and strange designs. Maybe it'll be a flash in the pan, and they're like, yeah, we made this thing. Or it would be terribly uncomfortable, and nobody would want it, and it would fade away. It turns out, I guess it's a little bit of both. It's kind of different and cool and tiny, but it's also extremely comfortable. It's surprisingly comfortable. And I think a lot of that is because of the larger scales that are kind of rounded way out towards the edge. And you get less of that with the MTech. It's sort of a 45-degree cut going around the grooves. It still feels fine, but by comparison, this feels much better. You know, stacked up against each other, I'd go with the Minimalist every time. So if you're like me and you're unsure of whether or not you would even like this thing, consider the MTech Model 673 as a cheap, not quite an alternative, maybe a trial version. So when I first laid eyes on the MTech 673, I immediately thought, oh, they cloned it. They totally cloned it. But it's actually different enough that I would say they took a lot of inspiration, but it is a different knife altogether, a different experience. In conclusion, I just wanted to make a compare and contrast kind of spotlight on, you know, an MTech alternative to something that turned out to be popular and interesting.